right, you are back with comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. I was thinking about starting drinking again today just so I had something to fucking talk about, because since I got back from the fucking Himmies, all I've been doing is trying to get this fucking show together. From 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day for the last 4 days, I've just been in the room going over this fucking show. It's so demoralizing just walking around your room, holding a microphone that's not plugged in, just going over your shit again and again and again in front of the mirror with your shirt off so you can get a little glimpse of the rig every now and then. There's no crowd response. You're just looking at yourself in the mirror just going, that fucking bombed. And you don't know either. You don't know if it's going to bomb or not until you get in front of a crowd. But until you get in front of a crowd, you're telling the joke to silence yourself in the room. It's demoralizing. Even when you do have something you think is funny or could be funny or potentially funny, if you repeat it enough times to yourself, you take all the funniness away from it. You'll come up with an idea and you'll think it's funny, but by the 100th time you've repeated it to yourself in front of the mirror to silence, you're like, who in their right fucking mind would ever laugh at that shit? That is shit. That is pure fucking shit. That's how I feel about the whole show at the moment. That is pure dog shit. Generally, I wouldn't even try and put a show together like this. I'd try and figure it out on stage. But here at the moment, there's not many other options. The gigs here are all fucked at the moment. I did one a couple of nights ago. There were 2 people in the crowd when the show started. A lesbian couple right at the front. And I'm like, thank God, that is exactly my demographic. Indian lesbians. Luckily, just before I went on stage, 4 other cunts walked in. So I went on stage, I did 12 minutes, and the 12 minutes for the most part worked. For the most part. It's really hard to gauge how the material's going when you're doing it to 2 lesbians and a table of 4 where 2 of them can barely speak English. This is what I'm dealing with at the moment. It's fucking chaos for me here. These are some very trying times for Boyle's stand-up comedy. And I was speaking to a couple of the comics at the gig the other night, and they were like, yeah, there's a lot of gigs, but about 50% of them are getting cancelled because no crowd's turning up. And if a crowd does turn up, it's like 5 or 6 people. And 5 or 6 is fine. You can get a little bit of a read from 5 or 6 fucking people. But I can't be going out every fucking night spending 3 hours traveling on a 50-50 chance that the gig is going to get cancelled or I'm going to fucking play to 6 people. I mean, I'll be doing that for the next 2 weeks. I got a gig tomorrow night. It's a late night show, so I'm just going to go on last and do as much time as I can. That's the other thing. It's like 6 minutes to 6 people or the gig's cancelled. So I really don't have any other option than just to fucking walk around my room, holding my microphone, repeating my fucking shit over and over again until every little bit of life has been sucked out of the jokes. I was meant to do a gig tonight as well. It got cancelled. I'm grinding it out here, baby. It is a fucking grind. It'll all be worth it though in the end when I bomb to 4 people for an hour at my solo show. But you just got to keep going. Anyway, fuck that. It's Friday, cunts. And that means it's time for a Fucked Up Friday. If you would like one of your fucked up stories read out on this podcast, email me on boylecomedy@gmail.com. So send it in there or join the Patreon, subscribe to the Patreon. It's £1 a month. There's 2 other tiers. There's the gym membership tier where you get my police interview and my fucking Indian wedding. Or there's the rich cunt tier where you get absolutely nothing else but my respect and a shout out on the podcast. If you're a rich cunt, you get a shout out. But if you join the Patreon, your story can skip the line as long as the story's still good. Don't send me some shit and expect it to get read out. But join the Patreon. The links are in my social media bios. Or just send me a message directly and I'll send you the link myself. Anyway, let's move on to this week's Fucked Up Friday. So this week's story was sent in by Colin Lee. Fucking Cozza. A Melbourne lad, a fucking Aussie. And this story is so fucking bogan, it made me nostalgic. So anyway, let's get straight into the fucking story. Every winter, me and a heap of my alcoholic mates head into the high country for the loosest boys' weekend you could imagine. Booze, drugs, big fires, and a fucking explosives cannon. This is what I mean. I had friends like this that just love blowing shit up. I was running away from a firecracker the other day. The boys' weekend. The boys. Fuck yeah, the boys. The boys' weekend, it's a tradition passed down from dads of a few of the boys. Those cunts should not have been having kids. If that's what you're passing down to your fucking children, don't have fucking children. The boys' weekend does not need to be passed on. Here, son. I'm sorry I had to leave you when you were 3, but I've got something for you. What is it, Dad? The fucking boys' weekend. That's why me and your mum aren't together anymore. So it's a tradition passed down from dads of a few of the boys, and some of the olds still occasionally attend. So what, like a couple of Hall of Famers come, do they? Just to make sure things are continuing as they should be. So a few boys' weekends ago, I was held up at work late on Friday afternoon. So I was in a fucking hurry to get out of home that arvo to get on it. I don't need much anyway, so into the coon rig. Fucking hell. Into the coon rig. That's how bogan this cunt is. I don't even know what a coon rig is. I can fucking guess, and it sounds pretty fucking racist. It sounds more than a little bit racist. It sounds very racist. So where was I? I don't need much anyway. So into the coon rig goes my swag, a chainsaw. A fucking chainsaw? Hey, Cozza, don't forget the fucking chainsaw, mate. If someone said that to me, I'd be like, hey, I'm not coming to this boys' weekend. What do we need a fucking chainsaw for? So he bought a chainsaw, a pack of snags, and bread. Snags are sausages. Sausages are hot dogs. So snags, bread, as well as the most important esky overflowing with piss. An esky is a cool box and piss is alcohol or just piss. Last minute, I see a jerry can of water from last trip and think, shit, better not forget that. Side note, I live on tank water. There we go. That explains a lot. And the water I used to fill that can up last year, I decommissioned and knocked down not long after because it was old and dirty. So I get on the road and remember why the coon rig doesn't get used much anymore. If you haven't worked it out yet, the coon rig he's talking about is a car, and not a very good car. So 5 years of no maintenance was showing, and the front hubs felt like they were about to fall off. The further I drove into the hills, the worse it got, until the vibration was so bad, I thought a wheel was going to fall off. Well, I'm now deep into the hills. It's snowing. It's about -5 degrees. When you guessed it, I hear a long bang and see my passenger wheel sail ahead of me and over the cliff. I'm like, fuck this. I can't stop here. There is no phone reception and it's about 15 kilometers further to camp. I've got to keep going. And as the old beast still happily powered on quite a lean, mind you, I keep up momentum and keep driving. By now, I stop sipping cans and start smashing them. Eventually, I roll into camp on 3 wheels to a bunch of drunk cunts pissing themselves with amazement at what has just come before them. In classic boys' weekend style, we spend the night into the next day getting off our faces. Barely able to stand, I head for a nap. Before I nap, I scull a few liters of the wonderful water I bought. I wake up a few hours later with the most agonizing pains in my asshole and proceed to shit myself before I can find a way out of bed. Dirty jocks and pants off, they go into the fire and then spend the next 5 or so hours with my naked ass shitting in the many locations of my newly created brown snow. By this time, I have no morals to even ask anyone if they had a spare pair of pants. Fuck it, I was dying anyway. Dehydrated throughout this affair, I keep drinking the water, not knowing it was filled with little wiggly buggers. And that is what's making me sick. I finally work it out and I start drinking river water instead, like I should have from the start, and I finally come good. By now, I still have no pants and am smashing cans trying to keep warm by the fire. We continue into the night, into the next day. Loving life. After a few hours of some kind of shut-eye, I'm up again ready to fuck off home. But of course, it's not that easy. I remember the wheel and think, how the fuck am I getting this shit heap home? Looking at the coon rig, that's fucked. I realize that it wasn't the hubs that failed. The vibration caused all the wheel nuts to come off, and not just the wheel that was gone. As well, I had square brake discs and a punctured brake line. A bit of bush mechanics, and I'm fucking good to go. Well, kind of anyway. I have no pants, no brakes, and a 100-kilometer journey off a snowy mountain to get home. Not to mention, I'm likely still way too pissed to be driving. So after a few hours of relying on the gears and the handbrake, I make it home to a very disappointed wife. Wife! That's me hubby. Anyway, heading back up this weekend, we'll be sure to enlighten you with any fucked up shit that happens this year. Please do. I want to hear what happened this year on the fucking boys weekend. Thanks for sending in that story. That was fucking Aussie, that story. That was a fucking Aussie story. That will do for tonight. If you're enjoying the podcast, share it around with your friends. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you the fuck later.